welcome back to another episode of the California Road Trip. Now, the California Road Trip has been going absolutely fantastic. Honestly, this is one of my most favorite trips that I've ever been on. Why? Because I got the Corvette. That's why. Corvette's done a few things. I did have to stop and get a new radiator cap. That's no big deal. But it kind of helps to be a little handy when you're doing things like this, going across country, because you never know what you're going to end up coming across. That being said, if you end up in a situation where you are traveling across country, you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your fluids. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to the temperature gauges and stuff like that. Just make sure you are paying attention to the vehicle that you're driving, whether it be a Corvette or something less fantastic, maybe a Honda Civic or something. It doesn't matter. So, today we're driving from Ukiah via 253 to Booneville, and then once we get to Booneville, we're going to go to down Mountainview Road to a beautiful lighthouse called Arena Point. Now, the really neat thing about this drive is that it goes through some both marked and unmarked roadways. Very twisty, windy. Typical Mountain View Road is typical of what you're going to find in not a state highway or not basically it would be the equivalent of a gravel road in the Midwest. Okay. Only difference is that you are driving on something that's in the Midwest we call it pitch pack. We pitch it, you pack it. So basically the whole road is made like this. Some of these roads are in the process of being upgraded to better roads, and quite frankly, as you drive around, if you've ever played an open world video game such as Forza Horizon, 4 or 5, driving around California is a lot like driving around on some of the roads in those games. You change from different services, you change from different elevations. Let's just put it this way: these are not the kind of roads where you want to get on it and really tromp on it and make sure that your carbs are cleaned out. So basically, yeah, you're gonna want to make sure that things are on the up and up. So anyways, you're going through the towns, California especially. The cops, I've never had a problem with the cops out in California. I have loud pipes on my Corvette. I did have interactions with the police while I was out there. Never any bad. I did run out of gas in the last video, coming back from the Redwoods. Embarrassing, I know. But that's when, you find yourself in a situation where, well, my gas gauge normally is fairly reliable. It says I've got 40 miles to E, and I trusted my gas gauge. Keep in mind, I was going up and down the mountains, so the gas gauge was the first time I have had an unreliable gas gauge. I had an unreliable gas gauge, so I ended up between Willits and Ukiah. I ran out of gas. Ironically enough, I was a mile away from a gas station when I ran out of gas, so it sucks. But that's one thing. That's another thing. I have roadside assistance on my insurance. That is honestly, it's the first time I've ever needed it. It's the first time I've ever used it. I've been around people who have had to use roadside assistance. That's one reason why I'm a big fan of roadside assistance. So basically, kind of shilling for insurance companies right now, I guess. But if you can put roadside coverage of some sort on your insurance policy, then I would do that, especially if you have a vehicle where you're going to be going out of town. You're going to be traveling, okay? It's not necessarily something for your A to B car, but if it's something that you're, taking on the highway, going out of town with, you definitely want to kind of look into that. So, when I was out working in Ukiah and and basically in this area, I basically rode my bike everywhere around here, and although I didn't go out to the coast with my bike, I did venture out quite a ways. I put several miles on my bike. My odometer by the time I got home, um, I had put about 150 miles on my bike riding it. So I'd get off work, I'd go to ride my bike, and I'd put all the miles on all these side roads and everything. Um, that being said, do not come flying around some of these corners, especially on these unmarked roads. You never know when there's going to be somebody biking along this way. Um, you come flying around a corner, even on a 2 lane, you come around a corner and there'll be a biker, or there'll be somebody on a horse or something. I've seen all of it out here. It's absolutely crazy. The speed limit's 55 in most of these places, and there's no civilization for hours. And yeah, so you're at the mercy of whatever happens to hop out in front of you. And a lot of these areas, you don't have any cell signal, so that just makes it even more terrifying. Which I'm not. Don't. I sound all doomy and gloomy here, don't I? But I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to get you guys aware of the perils of venturing out into a situation like this, or a place like this, where you're unfamiliar with the scenery, you're unfamiliar with the landscape, you don't know the people around you. Kind of keep an open mind as to what's going on. If you travel with a couple of buddies, I would recommend doing that. It's definitely funner to have multiple people with you. In this situation for this drive here, this isn't the end point of the journey for this trip. But I am splitting it up because the video would be oppressively long. And I know the Redwood video was a little bit of a juggernaut for a lot of people, so I'm trying to be as forgiving as I can be here. So we're just doing Ukiah to the Arena Point Lighthouse. But the next video is going to be the Arena Point Lighthouse to the Navarro Beach, the Navarro River, or it's Navarro or whatever video. That's going to be, we're going to the beach. Okay, there's a beach that we're going to, and the video after that is going to be that going to my end point, which was trekking back to Highway 101. Now, the really interesting thing about the whole drive here is the mix of roadway services. You get into a situation where you come around a corner, and as much money as California spends on everything, they don't really have any money to put into any of these roads. The state doesn't really put as much effort into some of these roads. You can tell that this is not old country. Like if you go out east, you can tell that it's all old country. You come up over a hill, and there's all these old gravel or brick roads and stuff, and you can tell that the countryside's been there for a long time and been lived in. Now, lived in is one thing. You come out into the point where you come around a corner and you have all these vineyards. When you look at some of this stuff, you look at like old Italian countrysides, like the narrow roads. There's a lot of that out here. And I'm not sure if it was a conscious effort to emulate the Napa Valley, if you will. That little taste of Tuscany in California, if you will. But I think it's interesting. I think it's very, very cool. In many respects, you can actually go out there and end up coming away with an experience that's quite similar to what you would find in Mediterranean countries. And I'm not saying it's a good substitute, but you know, the way the temperature is, the smells, definitely not the people. But there's a lot of Italians out there, which is just fascinating, because you would think that because it was a Spanish, the Spanish had been out there for so long, you would imagine there'd be more Spanish descendants, but there's actually quite a few Italians in California. And I don't think that that's a coincidence, to be quite honest. But anyway, so today, going out to the Point Area Lighthouse, or the Point Arena Lighthouse, and or Arena Point Lighthouse, or whatever. Anyway, I do have a segment where the tour guide is actually talking about the lighthouse and all the specifics about the lighthouse, and I'll let that guy, you know, explain everything about that. You know, the lighthouse actually was destroyed in an earthquake, the San Francisco earthquake. It was destroyed in that. And San Andreas Fault comes right up through this whole area. And I was out there a couple of times when there was actually an earthquake, not a major one, but you know, there was a couple of minor earthquakes the last few times I was out in California. I didn't notice any jiggling around when I was up there this time, but say it's not something to really worry about. I mean, it can be, but it's not really something that you should like put in the forefront of your thought process when you go out there. It's not something that's you need to be hyper aware of, you know. But it is fun. The water out there actually tastes pretty good. A lot of people are paranoid about like the local well water. It's not too bad. Everywhere out here I've had the water, and it doesn't taste too bad. A lot of it's you know, groundwater. You know, it's really good, really good water. So if you have any trepidation about that, I know I haven't talked much about that, but yeah. The one thing that I find really interesting about my drive out here, and I drove on the top of the mountain the way out. On the way out, I drove on the top of the mountain, and on the way back, which will be in the next video, or 2 videos from now. Sorry, guys. I come back through another redwood forest. Now, that's really cool drive. I'm gonna do a little bit long form like I did with the other redwood video, but I'm gonna compress the video a little bit, speed it up, like I am doing a little bit here. I did chop out a lot of the driving in this video, just simply because, I mean, a lot of it was the same. And I ended up, because I've got a GoPro 4 and I've got a GoPro 8, and my GoPro 8 I didn't charge enough batteries for it, and for whatever reason the charging cord quit working, so I couldn't charge it while I was on my way out to the Arena Point Lighthouse. Now, the really interesting thing that I find, and this is something I learned when I was out there working the time before this that I was in California, I was working out there. If trash is a certain, has a certain age out in California, it can be considered a historical find. And believe it or not, it's not as old as you would think. So, you know, you find in a lot of places where you have a turnoff, you'll look down the hill and you'll see refrigerators, tires, car parts, all sorts of junk, all sorts of trash. And it's typical of a country road. People don't want to pay the money to go and get rid of stuff. They'll just huck it down a hill and let it be somebody else's problem. Well, the way California has their laws pertaining to cleaning up along roadways, like say in the Midwest or out east, you'd have local efforts where they would want to clean up the roadways or clean up something like that. No, you'll have absolute trash piles, just 100% verifiably junk piles, just in a canyon pass, and you can't do anything with it because it's all, quote, historical artifacts. And I get it. Okay, they want to protect I mean, how many times do you see a pull tab beer can these days, right? I mean, I get it. Okay, everybody's going to want to see that, but at some point we got to go, okay, let's get the 15 refrigerators out of the ditch. It's just it just runs wild at some points, and there's nothing really you can do. A lot of the laws and everything that are put onto these people out here, you cannot do anything, which just frustrates a lot of the people out there. And I don't know, there's a lot of not in my backyard folks out there, but then again, I don't know. It's very strange environment. Politically, it's a very strange place to be, because everybody you talk to believes exactly the opposite in what they vote for and actually put in. So it's very strange, very strange. Yet they don't think that what they're voting for is contributing to the problem. But I mean, there's good out there. There's a lot of good people. If you basically, being in the Ukiah area, that whole valley of people, all the way up to, I would say, just shy of Eureka. If you don't go to San Francisco, basically, this is not me saying go down to San Francisco, you're going to find people like that, but the Northern California folks, they're a lot like the people in the Midwest. They have a lot of the same values. They have a lot of the same respect for people. They've got a lot of the same beliefs. So if you're from the Midwest, you're going to find a lot of people that are like-minded up there. Obviously, there's some wackadoodles. There's wackadoodles in the Midwest, too. Just depends on where you stop for gas, right? People are, the closer you get to, like, San Francisco and stuff, the less likely people are going to be receptive to you saying hi. People are going to think you're up to something. But up north, people, they'll say hi back, stuff like that. The typical waving when you're in the country driving by. They do that too. The country folks do that. I've always wondered who started that, and how that just keeps going. But anyway, so my drive out, just a fantastic drive. The only bummer about all this stuff is, you're trying to. I mean, you look at it on the map. The lighthouse is only 45 miles as the crow flies from where I'm staying in a hotel, but it's like 65 miles of windy mountain roads, and there's no straight way to go, and about a zillion hairpin turns. It's nice for a little while, but it does get old quick if you're in a bad car. Now, thankfully, my Corvette is more than willing to take the punishment. But if you had something a little bit more unruly, like an older hot rod with manual steering, it might be a little bit of a you might want to think about it before you make the jaunt out there. You might want to stick to segments of, let's say, US 101, or just only travel up into the mountain roads for a little bit and then come back just to say you did it, that sort of thing, especially if you're older. But if you're younger, you got some miles left to put on the odometer, definitely worthwhile going out there and getting the throttle pressed up. All right, so the really cool thing is that you're not going to be able to speed, and if you do speed, you're going to die. That's the really cool thing, right? And it's not necessarily that, you know, oh, you got to have a car capable of handling it. Yeah. Once you decide to do that and you start pushing the envelope into that situation, you're going to end up, you know, becoming a danger to yourself or others on the roadway. So you don't want to do that. You want to be responsible while you're out there. You can have fun. You can drive like a goofball, as long as you're being responsible about it. Okay, guys? So just kind of keep that thought process in the back of your mind when you do decide to go out in places like this. You've got roads like this out east, West Virginia, a lot of them down in Tennessee, Kentucky. There's a lot of roads like this down there. Not the scenery though. The really crazy thing about this is, you know, when I was out here, it was October, and I picked that time of year because it's not as rainy, it's not as hot, and everything's kind of drying up, which kind of stinks because, you know, seeing everything green is really nice. But unfortunately, when everything's green and vibrant, you also have heat and rain. So pick your poisons, right, guys? So I came out here at the time of year where I knew I wasn't going to be too beat up by the heat. You know, the car was going to handle everything great. I was going to have fun. The only bummer is that's just, it wasn't going to be a warm beach day. So, and realistically, if you're going to want to go out into the water in California, you're going to want to be down in Los Angeles and stuff like that. You don't want to be up north getting into the water, especially this time of year. It is oppressively cold. But anyway, so those of you guys who have been sticking through and watching the videos, what have you been thinking about them? What have you been thinking about putting into your own trips? More of these videos are kind of catered to the car guy that wants to drive than they are to somebody who wants to learn about what's going on around town here. I do have a project that I'm going to be doing in the Midwest that's similar to what's going on, and this trip did inspire me to start laying the foundation for that. So once I get my engine rebuilt and the Corvette's back up and running, I'm going to, I mean, it is running, but back up and running with its own motor, it will, I will be starting to produce some videos that are basically weekend warrior getaways. So if you want to go on a date with the missus and you want to explore the countryside and you're not sure what types of roads or you're not sure where to go, I'm going to start doing videos like that so people can get a good idea of what to do. Basically going to show you guys, you know, hey, I'm going to start in Iowa. Just going to kind of branch out from there. Iowa's fairly local for me, so, you know, a couple-hour drive any direction, and I'll have a fantastic video for you guys. So coming up on the lighthouse, the road to the lighthouse is actually, it narrows down pretty good. It is, you can get 2 cars by, but if you have anything like an RV or something, you might have a little bit of an issue. Now the reason why I decided to go to the Point Arena, or the Arena Point Lighthouse, was because I wanted to go to the one down south on the section of the Pacific Coast Highway that I was on in the previous video, but I did not get I didn't get enough time I spent too much time in San Francisco. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I actually had a lot of fun in San Francisco. Went to a lot of places to eat, and I got a bunch of souvenirs. It was very much had my name on it, right? San Francisco was pretty cool. Hung out with some sea lions. It was great, and I had a pretty good old time there, and it was quite fun. It was very, very fun. It was very enjoyable. But I digress. I didn't have enough time, so I could not get. What was it? The Point Reyes lighthouse would have been out there. I really wanted to go. Honestly, I think that one would have been a really awesome lighthouse to go to, but not at the end of the day. So it would have been kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. Maybe next time I'll go out there. But next time I go out there, I'm going to have 2 C4s. So yeah, so I'll have my chase car ready by then, and yeah, maybe I might hit up some lighthouses. Maybe I might do a video series of the lighthouses of the West Coast and the lighthouses of the East Coast. Who knows? But one thing that would be really cool is to do a video like that. I think that'd be really neat. Maybe just sparked an idea there in my head. But anyway, I wanted to see a lighthouse. And the Arena Point Lighthouse is a pretty easy to get to lighthouse. The traffic isn't too bad. This time of year, you don't have very many people out there. The wind was the only bad thing because, I wanted to talk and do a bunch of stuff outside, but it was just like, hang on, I can't do it. Now the microphone won't let me. The microphone won't let me blow into the microphone now. There we go. That's what it sounded like the whole time, right? And so it was kind of a bummer, and there's a lot of audio that I didn't get, so I got to do it all in post, which is what it is. It's not too bad. It's not the end of the world. I just wish that I didn't have to talk and yak and tell you guys everything, the whole story. I could have just, said it and then put it in the video and not had to worry about it, right? But anyway, I had a lot of fun driving out here to the lighthouse. I did have the top off the entire way, and the reason why I had the top off is why not? After the Redwood, after the Avenue of the Giants, I was like, you know what? I'm driving all over the place for now with the top off unless it's gonna rain. And that sucked when I was out there in the Redwoods because it kept raining on me, and I had to take the top off, put the top back on, take the top off, put the top back on. So whenever I'd have a break in the weather, I would take the top off, and then it would start raining on me again, and then I would get wet because I'd have to slow down because I got behind somebody's Honda, and they're like poking around, and I'm like, oh, I gotta do like 45 in order to not be drenched, and yeah, it is what it is. So we're pulling into the lighthouse here. This lighthouse is fantastic. It's gorgeous. It's a traditional style lighthouse. When you think lighthouse, this is exactly what you think. A lot of people, they think of a multicolored one, but this is the one that I think, and therefore it's the one you think of as well. Really nice, beautiful. You can see it from 100 miles away. And walking around the facility, there's a lot of stuff to see. It's not like a great big fantastic museum or anything. And walking around the thing, they've got some memorabilia from some shipwrecks, some whale bones, really cool whale bones. So if you got kids or a curious spouse, you can take them over and see the bones and stuff. And they've got placards telling you what the native species are and what you would see if you stood out there and paid attention long enough. There were whales breaching out there, but I really didn't see any that were good enough on film that I could have showed you guys. So you're kind of SOL on that. But anyway, that being said, they've got a museum inside. I took some footage of the museum. I did not take the museum with me, so you guys are going to have to go and find out yourself. They've got the mirrors, the lenses for the light in there, and it's really cool. And then yeah, there is no elevator to that lighthouse, the top of that lighthouse. So Yeah. So one thing you're going to find about me, if there's a lighthouse, I do want to go to it. Just because it's a good vantage point. I like seeing around areas. Like if I'm in a city, I want to stay in the highest floor because I want to look down on the peasants menacingly. Anyway, it is what it is. I think this one's cooler than the one on Lake Michigan.
The tallest lighthouse in California. We have 144 steps to the top, and our tower's 148 feet tall. As you guys are heading on up, I will take those pink passes from you, and then Jeff, your tour guide, is up the top waiting for you.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, guys, now that we're here, we're walking up the steps here. I'm going to let the guy take it away, and then we will pick it up after he gets done. Made it.
You still got 9 more to go.
9. Oh.
Hi there.
Oh my goodness. That's what I was looking for.
Hi. So they didn't give you a tour down the museum, right?
No.
Okay, so I'll take you just back in time just a little bit. This whole the lighthouse, the original lighthouse, was built in 1870. It looked like this right here. And that's how it looked all the way up till 1906. There was an earthquake that you probably heard about, the San Francisco earthquake. Well, it also hit here too, because it's all on the San Andreas fault line. So the earthquake took down the house where the lighthouse keepers, there was 4 of them. Those 4 and their families used to live in that house, and that was basically destroyed in the earthquake. That's why they built 4 houses there. That's where they ended up living after the earthquake. And also, the tower here, it wasn't knocked to the ground, but it was destroyed beyond use. Is what saved it is the staircase that you had climbed up here. It served as like a backbone to the tower, and it didn't knock it over. So when they rebuilt this one that we're standing in, they used a reinforced concrete, so it's a lot more designed to handle an earthquake. They also used a couple of parts from this thing that they still use today. That's this room that we're in. It's called the lantern room. That's the roof and the area, all these iron beams and these brass cross members. That was all original. So those are from original, and the staircase is the original staircase, so they reused that. Inside of this room is where they used to keep that big light that we see down in the museum. Well, they had taken that down, and we're still a functioning lighthouse. They don't use that big light anymore. That used to reach 21.5 miles out past the curvature of the earth. Now we use this guy behind the black post right there. That's an actual LED light. It'll flash once every 15 seconds. That 15 seconds flash means it's the Point Arena signature. It's not as strong as the one that was before. That one can reach like 14 miles out to sea on a really good day. If you're out in the water, maybe you can see 15 miles. So it's almost as far as you can see. What else was I going to say about that? Well, that's one of the purposes of a lighthouse. There's two purposes. One is aid to navigation, and that's what that light does. It also warns of impending hazards in the water. As you can see, we have a lot of hazards in the water. The beautiful rocks and all this coastline is very rugged. The Point Arena area itself has been the area of shipwrecks. There's been 100+ shipwrecks since they've been keeping track. There's a hidden danger out there. That you see that wave out there that's happening about 1.25 miles out there. It's kind of breaking over there right now. Well, that's called Arena Rock, and that's one of the reasons why the lighthouse is here. It's a hidden danger. This is like a satellite picture. As you can see, the blue water there is about 250 feet deep. Where the white spot is, that's where Arena Rock is at. It's about the size of a football field, and it's only 6 feet deep. So that has been like the culprit for a lot of shipwrecks over the years. The last significant shipwreck that we had over the years was this guy here in 1949. It was the Pacific Enterprise. He was coming from the north. You can see our lighthouse in the background there. But this ship here is actually stuck at this point. He hit that rock, kind of floundered around for about 3 days, and finally sank. Nobody perished to see that on that particular wreck. We have some artifacts down there in our museum, like including the captain's chair and a couple other things from that specific wreck. But we've done a pretty good job as far as keeping people off of the rocks since then. So those are the two reasons why there's a lighthouse: that aids to navigation, and it also warns of dangers. But lighthouses aren't without dangers themselves. We definitely have a couple here. One I've already kind of mentioned briefly about, that's earthquakes. The San Andreas fault line. If you kind of follow that beach right there, and you can see a white roofed house about 3 miles that way, that's right where the San Andreas fault comes through. The San Andreas fault basically is only 2 to 3 miles from us, and it's a very active fault line, so it is something that we always worry about. By the way, that beach is called Manchester State Beach, and if you go into Manchester, you can walk it. It is the longest white sand beach north of San Francisco. The other danger that the lighthouse has to worry about is a lot slower moving, but it's erosion, and erosion is happening every day. As you can see, our coastline gets pounded relentlessly by these waves and everything. Can I grab that off the ground? Sorry. So, if you look at the black and white photo there, that's the Devil's Punch Bowl. And if you look at right there, see where the ground has a hole right there? That's the Devil's Punch Bowl today. That was the Devil's Punch Bowl in 1880. And as you can see, it was just a hole in the ground back in those days. And as we look at it today, you can see the ocean is creeping closer and closer to us here at the lighthouse. They've done a geological survey of the land here, and they say that we have at least 80 years before we have to consider maybe tearing it down and moving it further inland. Something I like to kind of point out, the black rocks that are in the background, those are granite. The soil that we're on here is sandstone. You can see how it's kind of a tan color. Those sea stacks out there are just exactly the same as you see in the 1880 picture. They haven't gone very far, however the sandstone is moving. I do have a photo of a time lapse back in 06 in December. You can see after a very significant storm how much it blew through the side of the back of the Devil's Punch Bowl there. So with that said, that ends my presentation I have for everybody today. Anybody have any questions? Well, I'll throw in one more thing. The big light that we have in here, that big lens, it was actually able to rotate. And they didn't have electricity back until 1929. So they used to have to use like a crank, kind of like you would use in a grandfather clock. And that's how it was able to keep spinning. And those guys used to have to come up there every 75 minutes and crank that thing up for like 10 minutes, bring that 160-pound weight up to here, and then keep it going like that. And they also used to have to use kerosene for the light. And that was a big job too, because they would burn through at least a gallon of kerosene per hour. And so that means somebody had to run down there, grab a 5-gallon container of kerosene every 4 hours to make sure it doesn't run out all night long. So these guys had a lot of work to do. And then, like I say, they've reduced that. So now the Coast Guard comes by here once every 10 years and puts a new light bulb in it. That's all they do. So I'm going to go ahead and head down. I'm going to open up our balcony, and you're able to walk on that for unobstructed views. And once again, my name's Jeff. We're a small nonprofit business here. We appreciate each and every one of you coming here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
When walking down this particular part, just go down backwards for safety's sake and hang on to the rails, okay? Thank you.
Get a picture over there.
I want to put your coat on and you get out there. It's pretty cold. Yeah. Feel it already. About a 20-mile-an-hour wind too. That's a lot. A little bit.
Well, guys, once everybody decided to get out of the lighthouse deal there, I decided to take a couple of panoramic pictures, and I went down on the catwalk, and then I walked around that, took some pictures and videos of it, of the stuff going on around there too. What'd you guys think of the lighthouse? Isn't it cool? I mean, yeah, it's a lighthouse. How cool can a lighthouse be? Honestly, I think the lighthouse was really probably the coolest part of my adventure. Actually, tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but the later parts of this adventure were really cool as well. But you're gonna see them here probably in the next couple weeks. So anyway, what were your thoughts on the video? Leave them in the comment section below. Definitely hit a like on. You know, that stuff helps me. When you guys interact with my videos, that helps me more than you guys can imagine. When you leave a comment, it doesn't matter what kind of comment. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can be neutral. You know, you can share your own opinions about your own adventures and what you would have done different. You know, I don't care. It just throw some comments down there. That helps out, helps promote the channel and get everything out there. I understand that some of these videos might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I filmed them. I like them. It's my channel, and if you don't want to see them, then don't watch them when they're put up. And but if you do watch them, please interact with them. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you'd like to contribute on Patreon, I do have a Patreon set up for the channel. You can help fund future projects, which would be things like this or car projects, whether it be working on this car, the C4 I'm driving now, or if you want to help fund the acquisition and maintenance videos of a new one, please leave a comment in the comment section and consider donating on Patreon today. Thank you guys very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Thank you guys.